Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Keyblade Master and welcome to my channel. You know something, I've been thinking that 1997 and 1998 were two of the more stellar years in gaming, and it's kind of ironic. I consider the PS1 N64 era as one of the worst eras in gaming. The games don't look good, they've aged poorly oftentimes, and when you compare them to the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games, which I think have aged stellarly, there's things that are just off-putting about that era. But 97 and 98 gave us some great classics. It was the close of one era, the classic era, and the birth of this more modern era that we see now. 3D games were showing us what games in the future would be like. Final Fantasy VII for the RPG nuts, Zelda Ocarina of Time for our action adventures, and then we had GoldenEye for first-person shooters. But we still had some classic games that looked good too. We had Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which was a great 2D game. We had the Mega Man X series, still doing 2D and looking great. And then Star Fox 64, which was a 3D game. However, it was the last game I know that had the balls to be a true classic-esque game, which is, if you got a game over, you got your butt sent back to the title screen. That was like the last of its kind. Nowadays, it's just back to the last checkpoint a few minutes ago. Today, I'm going to be reviewing one of the classic games I just mentioned in Mega Man X4. It actually had the balls to do a 2D game back in the time when everyone was jumping to 3D, and actually got attacked a few times because it was 2D. Go over and read IGN's original review. They gave it a low score because it was, quote, a 2D game. Well, my thought is, if Capcom ever did have a 3D Mega Man X game that actually existed, I'm pretty sure it would suck. The story in Mega Man X4 is set up sometime after Mega Man X3. Dr. Kane saw how the Doppler incident was an utter failure, so he decided to create the Reploid Air Force to help the Maverick Hunters out busting Mavericks. Well, some stuff happens. Something called the Sky Lagoon falls on an innocent city. A bunch of people are killed. The Repliforce is now blamed, and now X and Zero are out to hunt them down, even though they have some friends in the Repliforce that are still considered allies to them. However, since they're part of the Repliforce, they end up hunting them down too. For the most part, it's okay. I can understand Zero's story a little bit better than X. Zero has this girl named Iris. She's even cameoed in another Mega Man game for the Game Boy Color that he's with, and you can understand that story and that concept better. X has this guy named Double that's supposedly following him around. I don't quite understand his character, other than the fact that he does become a boss towards the end of the game, but you don't really see or care for him. Zero and Iris, that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. X and Double, yeah. Helping the game story, though, are some anime cutscenes. They are pretty well animated for late 90s. However, the voice acting in the English dub for them is, well...
There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
Yeah, it's kind of so bad that it's kind of hilarious. The Mega Man games were known for having some really bad voice acting back in the day. This is especially true here. That said, this troupe of voice actors, which were the same ones that did Mega Man 8, do a lot better job here than what they did in Mega Man 8. Still, it's pretty bad, but it's one of those types of bad that it's so memorably so that it's kind of hilarious and enjoyable. Alright, it's time to move on to the graphics now. What did I mean by when I said all the games at this time are kind of ugly? I mean they don't really hold up well when it comes to the 3D games. Yes, there are a few that are okay looking, but if you ask me, the barrier to entry to these games, at least when it comes to the looks, and that's the first thing you notice in a game is the looks, I would have to say the PlayStation 1 era is about as hard, if not harder, than the Atari generation. Just my thoughts. Mega Man X4, though, kept it 2D, and boy does it still look good. The graphic sprites are very, very well polished. They're very well animated. X and Zero look like anime characters and very well represented in those anime cutscenes. And it does use some 3D effects for the background to help it stand out more. I just love the way this game looks. I don't think they could do it better on the PlayStation 1. And typical of Capcom, they did reuse a lot of the sprites, including X and Zero, for the next two games as well. But I can't blame them. They all look fantastic. As for the sound, I've already mentioned the voice acting. It's over the top bad, but it's not completely unenjoyable. As far as the music goes, we got some great Mega Man tunes here as well. They all fit the scenes and they all sound really good. You'll be humming a few of these melodies too. Just take a listen. They all sound really nice and really catchy, just like this one, and they fit the stages they're in well. So while the voice acting might be bad, there's nothing wrong with the music composition. Well, it's time to talk about the gameplay now. Well, after Mega Man X3 and all its problems about being too hard and way too much stuff to find that made it tedious and frustrating, Mega Man X4 does something interesting to increase the gameplay time while not increasing the frustration. There's now two characters to select from X and Zero. If you select X, he plays exactly like he does from the original Super Nintendo game. And I mean it. There's no longer any extra bosses that you have to choose carefully to pick your stage in order to beat to affect the ending. There's no more extra armors that you have to pick up in order to collect more stuff from those armor pickups. Those are all gone. With X, you just got to collect those 8 heart tanks and find the armor upgrades. And there's now only 3 energy sub-tanks to find. Actually, technically 2. That third one's a weapon pickup, which I don't understand why they did that. Because when you collect X's armor upgrade, his armor in this one is way overpowered to the ridiculous extent. His leg upgrades allow you to hover. His armor gives him an extra attack. His helmet now gives you unlimited weapon. And just the 2 arm upgrades that you can equip, and you have to pick one, are very overpowered. One gives you 4 charge shots at once, while the other allows you to charge up and fire this one huge plasma shot that then leaves a ball of plasma on an enemy. Then it continues to do damage. It's especially effective against bosses. So he's got a lot of options in this one. And like I said, the helmet gives you unlimited weapons upgrades, so why do I need a weapons sub-tank? If you choose Zero, though, the game gets quite a bit harder. He, for example, only has a lightsaber to go off of. He doesn't have a buster attack, so you have to get really close up and mash the button in order to attack. His lightsaber is a lot stronger than X's gun, though, and it's really fun just to carve through enemies with this. Whenever he defeats a boss, rather than getting a weapon pickup, though, he'll get a new ability. Some of them are to attack, others are to get around, like being able to double jump. So Zero's really handy. My only complaint against Zero is try to figure out exactly what the name of the new technique he picks up is called.
You won.
Raijin Geki. Sounds like something I need ointment for. Anyways, all of Zero's moves are, of course, not translated from their original Japanese. That can be a little bit confusing sometimes trying to look up what each move does, because unlike X, you don't actually equip the moves. Rather, you have to push a button and then something on the control pad. For example, to do an up fire attack, you have to hold the up button and then you have to press triangle to do that move. A down ice attack will do the same thing. Jump up, press down, and then triangle to do the ice attack. So it's kind of confusing sometimes to figure out what move does what and where you learned it. And that's a little bit of a turnoff, but it's nothing big. For the most part, any turnoffs I have with Mega Man X4 are small. Mainly, it is a bit of a short game. It is a bit easy, but I'll take that over some of the tedious and some of the frustration that I got in X3. And for the most part, I find it fun. I always have a blast replaying through this game, regardless of how many times I've done it. It ranks up there with Super Mario Brothers when it comes to this category. Anyways, I give Mega Man X4 a 5 out of 5. This is really as perfect as a 2D action platformer can get, and it's definitely worth your time to pick up. It's $5 on the PSN, which is a great price for it. So if you have a PS3, a PSP, or a Vita, you have no excuse not to get this game. Definitely worth buying. In the meantime, feel free to click that subscribe button if you want to see more of my content. I do reviews like this all the time. Right now I'm in the middle of reviewing a lot of the Mega Man X games, and I'm going to be doing that throughout this month. And unfortunately, Mega Man X4 is the pinnacle of the X series, which means it's kind of downhill from there, but that doesn't mean there isn't any good experiences in the X series. So feel free to stay tuned to my channel for more content. In the meantime, this is Tommy the Keyblade Master thanking you for watching this video and signing out. I'll see you next time.